Hello, I am Denise Rosado Ramirez. I am the district educator here at Ulta Beauty, and this is my beautiful model, Allie. We are going to be doing a curly cut on her today, and so I've already started the sectioning. You're going to have 3 quadrants. We're going to make this a little bit easier for you. I want to make you sure that you pay particular attention to the sectioning, because I went right behind the ear, so about a 2-inch subsection farther back, and then kind of tapered through where the neckline is. As we consulted earlier, she did let me know that she hasn't had a haircut in about 2 years, so she does have a little bit of unevenness. She doesn't want a ton off. So as we determine her texture, she's about a 3C, 4A with different curl patterns kind of mixed throughout. The goal for her today is going to be nice and cleaned up, to even everything out, and then to create some volume right in here without taking too much. The main goal, I think, with any curly girl is to make sure that you're not taking off what you can't put back on, and if they're not ready for a big chop, that's okay. You can go slow and make sure that you're introducing moisture and then products, techniques, so that they're able to live with the curls that they've always wanted without the frizz. Because I think a lot of times our curly girls want curl, they just don't want that frizz. So I'm going to be starting in this back section, and I don't have combs. I don't utilize them when I do a curly cut. I generally will go through and I will utilize my fingers to make sure that I'm separating that hair. I've found that if I try to disrupt that curl pattern too much, then I really can't see where those clusters are. And I want this hair to be in its natural fall, kind of living and letting me see where I need to really remove. Because her hair hasn't been cut in a long time, I'm gonna assume, and I'm gonna show you guys, her hair is really, really long. The difference now is she has a bunch of shrink, and depending on the curl type that she has intermixed in this hair, it can cause way more shrink. So if we look here, this curl pattern is tighter, so even though it is as long as the other subsection, when it recoils, it comes up farther. So I need to be mindful when I'm going through and curly cutting that I'm only taking off what she's gonna visibly wanna see off. If you can think about it almost like a bonsai tree, you're gonna be trimming a beautiful bonsai tree. So I'm gonna go through, I took a horizontal parting that is about 2 inches, and I am going to take a subsection. I'm gonna bring that hair right where it lives. I'm not going to elevate it. I just wanna get control of that hair. And because her density is so big, so it expands versus collapsing, my hair, if I were to do this technique, it would collapse because it's so much finer. But I just wanna go through and see where this density is and where these ends kind of get thinner. Once I figure where that is, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna just pinch. I'm gonna continue to gently go through so that I don't disturb the curl pattern, but that I'm able to kind of see where strategically I wanna get rid of that hair. So I'm gonna go through here and I'm gonna just take those ends off. I'm gonna make sure that I go in a nice pattern so I get everything off. Okay. And then I'm going to take the side section next to that on the left side. You can start left to right, right to left. I'm just accustomed to starting to my left. And you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna bring that down. I'm going through and I'm slightly stretching, but if you notice, my tension is really, really gentle. I'm just bringing it down so that I can kind of see where that recoil is, see where that hair wants to live. And then once I find where that position is and where that hair is, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna just cut that off. Okay. Sometimes you'll have to open your hands or close your hands to get a good grasp of those little hairs. These hairs here, we're gonna go through. So as you notice, on this side, she has a lot more of a recoil, but as I go through and bring this down, I'm just gently going to pull this hair and let go of that tension, allow it to expand, find where that hair is gonna wanna live, and then I'm gonna take just those ends off. This kind of method is called condensed cutting, so we go through and we kind of bring everything to a point so there's a little bit more structure. Once we gain a silhouette for the hair, then we can go through and define it and do something like a curl by curl. Once I've done that, I want to bring all of this hair together. And I'm just looking to see where this hair is gonna live. And very, very, very gently, I'm going to pretend that I have that beautiful bonsai tree, and I'm going to just take off that perimeter. Okay? So if you look already, she has a nicer perimeter. We're gonna continue to clean that up as we go up the hair. But now we're going to take the next subsection, which will be another 2-inch. And I use the comb, the clip, as well as my shears, just to kind of create my subsection. And then I use the shears very gently on the back end to separate everything. It would be as if it was an extension of my fingers. So gently going through, making sure that you check in with your guest. Am I hurting you?
No.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you don't want to make sure that you want to make sure that you're not pulling someone's hair or they're not in pain. This shouldn't be painful. It should just be kind of very gingerly. You're going to be releasing any of that tangle, because sometimes with curly hair, even if it is detangled, because there's so many revolutions in it, it'll kind of curl on itself, and so it can cause a little bit of tension when you go to release it. So if you notice here, again, she hasn't had a haircut in a long time. This was our first subsection, so there's quite a disconnect. But instead of going through and taking off all of this hair, I want to make sure that we're intentional about what we're doing. So I'm going to take this portion of the hair and almost creating a triangle. I'm over directing, but I'm making sure that my tension does not over direct or pull too much on that hair. That hair lives there. I'm just slightly over directing to meet the corner of where this previous subsection was. Once I have that there, because her hair has so much density and because it is multiple textures in one, multiple curl patterns in one, once I release it, even though I'm bringing the hair and I have very minimal tension and very, very little elevation, you're gonna see that it's gonna create what we consider like a layering effect without having to take too much hair off. Go through, take this.
And Denise, one question that's coming up is why dry versus wet?
So if I had someone who, let's say, has their hair wet, what happens when hair is wet, when fabric is wet, when anything, it's going to elongate. So it's not going to give me a true idea of where that hair is going to live. Dry cutting allows you to see really where that hair is going to live or where those curls are going to live, and it makes it so that it's more intentional. The goal of a curly cut is to wear it where it lives, so that with the most minimal type of maneuvering, you can have beautiful, beautiful hair. You don't have to create any type of, curling, blow drying. But with that said, a dry cut for curly hair is going to be worn only curly. If you have a guest who wants to have that multifaceted look of wearing it curly or wearing it straight, then you're going to have to do different methods. So you might have to pre-stretch that hair so that you get really, really great solid lines, and then follow the same type of parameters in terms of how much do they want off, how are they going to wear that hair. It's really not even so much about the method or the style. There's so many schools of thought when it comes to curly cutting. But the reality is that we need to be mindful of what our guest wants and what they're capable of. Because as a stylist, I can recreate whatever I want. I can see a picture and make that happen for a guest. But can they? When they go home, the goal is to make sure that they've done the best job of communicating with you and that you've done the best job of teaching them what they're going to need to do to recreate the look that you worked so hard to get for them. So we went through, we removed some of that excess, and now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of bring that hair here. I'm going to make sure that I get all of it together, and she has a lot, right? And any little outliers, I'm going to go through and just trim off. So I would always say make sure that you practice this on a mannequin. Make sure that you go through and practice with different textures. Make sure that you do your due diligence about what people are looking for, what your guests are looking for, because although I may see a picture and think, oh, this is beautiful to me, it may not be to them. It may not be the commitment that they want. It may not be the length. So being very, very mindful. So here all I'm doing is going through and again, just taking out any outliers, because what I want is for her perimeter to be nice and dense. I don't want to see gaps or holes, and I'm already seeing that it's creating that lift. So if we come to the side view, we can see where it was kind of dragging. Now it's creating that elevation that she's going to want to have in this curly cut so that she has movement. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to take a 1-inch subsection. I'm going to utilize my shears again to kind of go through that hair, not causing any pulling or tension. And generally what I do is I'll make sure that I go through the entire cut. I kind of set the foundation, and then once I'm done setting the foundation, I will refine. And then I also will refine once the cut has been styled. So I take her to the shampoo bowl. I'm gonna make sure that I moisturize, that I condition, that I hydrate these curls to the most beautiful state that they can be in. And sometimes this is a process. Sometimes it will take a little bit longer if curls haven't been treated or use the right products to hydrate, or if they have a cast because of a lot of oil buildup. You need to make sure that we're detoxing. So I'll definitely do that, and then once the hair is set in the way that I want, I will go through and I will then again refine any little things, and that generally takes a lot of time talking to the guests, showing them in the mirror, moving the hair, because it has to be something that has movement, that is beautiful, that sways. When they sway, you know, you want to make sure that they're loving their hair, whatever that means for them. That's the goal. I may love something on someone, but with her, when we were talking through what she wanted, she said, I'm open to anything, but I don't want bangs. So I know that many of you have heard that too. You're in the chair with somebody, they're like, I'm open to whatever you want to do, whatever you think looks good, but I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. So just be very mindful of what you're giving them, and always continue to communicate, and making sure that as you're going through, you're really, really intentional about the result, the time frame, the maintenance, the products that we're going to use. You know, porosity has a lot to do with what I'm going to ask her to use later. When I take her to the shampoo bowl is generally when I will measure the porosity. And it's not that I can't really tell what her hair products could be. I just like the science to kind of do the work. I want to see how that hair accepts moisture and how it keeps it. And that's really what porosity is when your hair is able to accept or kind of reject, because those that are low porosity won't accept moisture as easily. So that's how you determine how thick or thin of a product that you may need when you are recommending that for your guests. So I'm going through again. I kind of keep it open, almost in a circular form, and then I expand it because I need to see where kind of those outliers, those little hairs are hiding. I'm going to go through and kind of just visually and very gently go through. There's times where you have to bend and you have to make sure that you're viewing what you're seeing from almost a bird's eye view, that you're intentional about your angle. These are shears that are made specifically for dry cutting so that they don't bend the hair. But honestly, I've used pretty much anything, and especially when I was learning curly cuts and really wanting to make sure that I became the master behind the chair at it, it was more of an intention because I have family, nieces and nephews who have curly hair and grew up hating their hair. I wanted to make sure that I was able to show them that their hair in their state was beautiful. And so, you know, a lot of times we have this perception that, or I was even taught, I remember being in beauty school and hearing good hair versus bad hair. You know, there's no such thing. You know, I believe that all hair is beautiful, all textures are beautiful, and it's really about how we make sure that we treat those textures or those fabrics to get the result that we want. So as I'm going through, I'm bringing it at the same elevation. This is right in here. If you look really, really closely, I can see where all that density is. And this is kind of just these ends that haven't been trimmed for a couple of years, 2 years to be exact, right? And a lot of times it's because a guest is unsure. They've gotten their haircut maybe wet, and then they had a lot of shrink and recoil, and the hair didn't look the way that it was supposed to look, or the way that they thought it was gonna look based off of an Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat picture. So I'm gonna go through, make sure that I have and repeat the same type of elevation, that my body position is able to see through the hair. I can see where that density lives and where those ends are kind of just, you know, ready to go and meet their maker. I wanna make sure that I'm intentional, that I'm standing where my body position needs to be so that I can see it, so that if there is good lighting or bad lighting, I'm able to see the reflection, the revolutions of the curl. So automatically you already start to see that there's a gradual lift with the hair. I'm gonna go through, taking this last section in the back, and we're gonna be moving to the side. Again, same tension. I move it off to the side. My body is behind it, but it is off to the side so that I can see what I'm actually working with. Make sure that with your lighting, you have really good lighting and that you're able to see, because I think a lot of times with stylists, we want to get so close and we're here, but can I really see anything if I'm this close to it? Sometimes perspective is everything, and taking a step back and seeing where there is opportunities to go ahead and do a curl by curl or refine a perimeter. Make sure that you give yourself the time and the ability to work with that hair so that you see what it can or cannot do, what its possibilities are. Just like Ulta, where the possibilities are beautiful. You have different avenues and different ways to be able to sculpt this hair. The reality is that when I think about curly cutting, I think about it like I'm a sculptor. I feel most at ease when I'm going through and really creating something that I know that the client is gonna love, that they're gonna be able to wear, and they're gonna be so proud, thinking like, this is my hair. I always get I want the Instagram picture hair. So making sure that we're intentional about that. So as I go through the side, I'm gonna turn her so that you can see, you know, utilize your mirror. If you notice in the mirror, she has now a really nice rounded with a nice full perimeter. It's not to take off all of her hair. It's more so to give it a shape so that as it continues to grow, it's able to grow into a more healthy looking, even balanced, symmetrical type of cut. So as I'm going through, I'm gonna take her side. She doesn't wear her hair in the center. However, I part it in the center. I like there to be symmetry. If she decides she wants to wear left to right or right to left, she has the ability to do so. But I'm taking a diagonal back subsection. So I'm gonna go through, bring that up so that it exposes her perimeter. So in the front, you're gonna see about an inch. Going towards the back where the ear is, you're gonna see about a 2.5 inch. And then I'm gonna help to meet that with this back. I'm gonna over direct to the back, but again, make sure you're mindful of your tension, of your body position, their head position. So even though I'm going to extend this back, I'm not going to do this. I'm just bringing it back to where it's gonna live and creating the same technique, going through, seeing where the density is, where there's opportunity, and then removing that unevenness, that disconnect. Are there any other questions coming through in the chat, Danielle?
So what are some of your favorite curly products?
So I have many. I think that I've learned not all things are the same. Not all things hold the same weight in terms of water and water solubility. I will tell you that right now, I'm really, really loving Curlsmith. I love the InStyle Shower Jelly. I love Inner Sense. I Create Hold. I think that's a really great product. They're all vegan and bunny certified, so that's even great. You know, we want to make sure that we give back and we do the best that we can, and you know, to keep this planet nice and safe and our animals and things like that humanely treated. Those are the ones I love the most in terms of brands. However, we have so many great brands. I think that the allure for me when I was coming into working for Ulta was the fact that I did have the ability to get my hands on so many different things. We're all different. What works for me may not work for you, and what may work for one curly texture may not work for another. The ability to have your hands into multiple things and be able to test them is a luxury that, you know, not all of us in the hair industry have had in the past. So I'm over directing, making sure that I take that hair, any excess that doesn't belong, I just go through and I take that out. Now similarly to the back, I'm gonna move her head, shoulder, ear touching kind of the shoulder. Don't break any of your clients' necks. So just gently. And then I'm gonna go through and do the same thing that I did in the back. And so any little outlier, be careful, make sure that you're moving your hands and don't go past where the hair doesn't. So that means don't push your shears into your hands. You don't need to do this. You're just on the outside. Whatever is sticking out is what you're gonna go through and remove. I'm gonna do that same thing on the other side. So ear to neck. Just what is outside of that. Now, generally, once I have this set up, I will go through and I'll refine once I have her shampooed. But in the front, we did talk about what she wants to see. So her hairline is a little bit thinner, right? So one, she doesn't want a bang. It almost looks like she had a bang, but this could be just these little baby hairs that didn't grow. You know, sometimes with pulling your hair back, you create breakage and all of those things. So I want to be mindful of where she wants her hair to end. We talk through, so right here about the chin is where this hair is living. I'm going to take very, very minimal off of this, because once this goes and shrinks, when I apply her product, those bangs here that I did not cut, that I will not cut, are gonna probably go up to the tip of her nose. And it's gonna give the effect of a bang. But if a guest doesn't want that, make sure that we're mindful and that we speak through. So she already knows, hey, these pieces are a little bit shorter, I'm gonna do the best that I can, but the overall look is gonna be saved with that. So now I'm gonna take and I'm gonna break this quadrant into two. I'm gonna take this point all the way to the front of that subsection, almost as if I was doing diagonal forward. So making sure that I create an imaginary line going towards that chin. I'm gonna leave that hair there. And I'm going to see where this hair lives. And very similarly to the back, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna create a triangle. I'm gonna take this hair and I'm gonna bring that down and slightly over direct. So this hair really lives here, some of it in the back, but I'm gonna slightly over direct. I'm not gonna create any tension, so I want that, make sure it has that spring, and anything that is an outlier is what I'm gonna take off. So here, this hair that has been living there for a long time and hasn't had any love, is gonna go bye-bye. But we already have her what? We already have her perimeter, right? We're not cutting into her perimeter at all. So she's gonna have that density, and then she's gonna have this lift. So as you go through, you start to see this lift without seeing holes in the haircut. I'm gonna take the same thing, I'm gonna take another triangle here so that we're connecting. Again, not touching that perimeter, slightly over directing, not all the way back, but just right behind where the ear is. So the ear is right here. I'm gonna slightly over direct. Same technique, I'm gonna find that hair where that density lives, and then anything that's outside of it, that's all I'm taking off. So as you start to see, you start seeing that lift without me taking any of this off. Later on, I'm gonna go through and I'll refine the front, but this is just your structure. Always remember, get your foundation set, and then you can worry about creating all of those little fine tuning, all of the little curls that this person wants to see, or the little trims to the face. All of the extra could be done after. Again, I'm taking that triangle. Taking this, sectioning this hair. And again, like I mentioned, you know, there's gonna be times where you're gonna have to kind of go through it again and again because the hair will curl on itself. Finding that hair, I step back so that I can see where that density is. And then I sculpt everything outside of there. Expand, I want to make sure that I see that shape. Take another triangle. Making sure I'm not touching that perimeter.
And Denise, why triangle sections?
So hair, just like color, is prismatic. So when you think about hair being circular, right? So if you look at it under a microscope, it's circular. But we're living in a space that is not square. We have a rounded head. So when you incorporate triangles, you allow for there to be movement within the hair and sometimes connection of spaces that don't belong. So if you have somebody who has a lot of density here and it's disconnected, creating triangles will help for you to be able to incorporate some of those longer and shorter pieces without having to take too much off. Going through, slightly removing that excess. Expanding. I'm going to do the same thing. These are the same steps, you know. I think that sometimes we forget the foundations of what we do because we want to have all of the creativity, which is amazing and wonderful, but keep in mind that, you know, your guests come to you for consistency too. I've had guests say, you know, I got a beautiful haircut the first time, and when I went back, it wasn't the same. We need to make sure that as we're creating this flair and our own techniques and the things that really resonate with us as artists, that we're still sticking to the foundation of what we're doing so that we're able to have consistency. Because consistency is really the key to make you a good stylist to an amazing stylist, artist, colorist, whatever it is that you feel, you know, you're passionate about. So as we go through, I always make sure that I'm checking in the mirror, that I'm looking for symmetry, where this hair is ending. I don't go from side to side and look. Really, if you follow the foundations, your hair is going to end up where it belongs. Now, when I get to these wonderful pieces here, this is really more intentional. I need to make sure that I'm saying, okay, this hair, do you want it to live here? And if you do, even with me not doing much to it, just from what I did, there's this push now. So this hair is gonna be elevated, right? So if I were to think about intentionally just taking off very, very minimal, it's gonna get her to about there on either side. And I wanna make sure that this hair is able to move from either side. Because I know that she said I part just on one side, but I think after this cut, she's gonna be doing all the flips and the hair whips that she can, because this hair is just gonna look amazing on her. And for her bone structure, her facial features, she's just gonna look more beautiful than she already does. So I'm gonna go through with this subsection here, and I'm gonna take triangle again from where that part line is and slightly back. It doesn't have to be too big. Again, density is everything. So if somebody doesn't have a very highly dense hair, then your triangle might be smaller. That's okay. And go through. I'm not gonna bring or elevate. I'm not doing any of that. I'm bringing that hair really kind of to where it lives, because her hair has so much density, and the texture that it is, it's going to already expand on itself without me having to put extra layering. Okay, take the same subsection here, my clip away. And utilize a little bit of that guy and bring that back. So I'm always incorporating a slight little bit from the previous section, just because, again, I think that when I first started to learn curly cuts, I have a niece who went to school. She has 4C texture, and someone told her hair was ugly, and while she was in school, she was in 5th grade, someone cut the back of her hair, creating a huge hole. And it then became my mission to make sure that I never allow anyone that I could or that I loved to feel like if they were not beautiful or that what they brought wasn't as beautiful as someone else's. So I've worked really, really hard to understand curly hair and the why. And what I've really found more than anything, more than any technique, is really the ability to really listen to what my clients are asking for. What are they seeing? What do they not like? Because in knowing what they don't like, I'm able to cater this type of a cut or any other kind of curly cut to really something that they're going to be able to achieve at home on their own, when no one is there, when they're feeling at their lowest. I mean, I've had people that will come in and feel so down and then get their hair and they're like, I absolutely love my hair. I don't know what to do with myself, and their smiles. So it's so rewarding to be able to do something like that for someone. Now, I'm not gonna touch the front yet. I'm gonna have her put her head all the way back, because I need to kind of now see where all of those hairs that will hide from you because they want to live their best life in here that don't belong. And I'm going to go through. I always make sure that I tell my guests, please make sure you stay still, no jolts. And again, I'm just going to go very superficially. What does not belong? Don't go into the hair. You're just going to go on the outside. So if it's sticking out, go through and refine it. You can use your fingertips to very gently kind of coax that hair into whatever space you want it, and then go through, and again, whatever does not belong, you can remove. I always tell my guests, especially if they've never had a curly cut before, you know, I'm gonna be cutting as I go through. I'm gonna be constantly going through, kind of refining, moving, so that they don't get scared. It is a scary thing to have curly hair and for someone to say, I'm gonna cut your hair and then cut too much. Because with shrink, there's nothing they can do. They can't really hide it. And because they want their hair to be curly, they're not gonna be straightening it all of the time. So, you know, that effort that you just put into it, cutting too much takes it away instantly. Have to move her head to the side. And the same applies on the side. I want you to take a look at the perimeter, go around the head so that you see. We're going to start now to really fashion the style for the front and how that hair is going to live. So, as of right now, we have this hair. It's kind of just there. It's really not doing anything for her. And if you look really closely, you'll notice that the density lives till about right here. And then it kind of gets pretty sparing and sad, a little sad. It's a little sad right here. That's okay. So we're gonna go through, even though I'm not gonna take it all the way up, you're gonna see what happens. So I'm gonna have her bring her head all the way forward for me. And just like I did in the back, I'm gonna more free form this. So I'm gonna go through and just gently, with no tension at all, take off the very, very ends. What does not meet, belong, all of the things. Now I'm going to start to expand it slightly. And I'm going to follow the same rules. Right here she has a little bit, right there she has a little bit, on this side, slightly. When she lifts her head, it's already taken off a bit, right? Can we do better? Absolutely. So I'm going to go through in the same principles. Even though it's a center part, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a triangle. So I'm going to take half of a triangle on one side, half of a triangle on the other side. I like to use sometimes the ends of the eyebrows as a point of reference, or if they have really pretty big almond eyes, the end of the eye. Find your reference point, make sure that you're speaking to your guest about where they want to visually see, and then go through. So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to stand here so that you're able to see. I'm going to find where that weight is, right about here, and then everything else I'm going to go through. And I'm going to be very careful not to cut myself because I'm trying to make sure that you guys see me on camera. So just from that, that's what that creates right there. Now what I'm gonna do is go through and create another little triangle so that I incorporate the piece and the size to connect. Again, I am not elevating, I'm not taking much off. What I'm doing is making sure that I'm very intentional of where that hair is living, and I'm respecting the boundaries that it has. Hair will tell you, hey, I can't go past this point. I'm shrinking up here. Like, if you have to continue to do this, then don't cut it because you're going outside of where it's living. You're trying to make it go outside of where it's living. Doing the same thing here. Making sure that we connect. Come from behind so that you guys are able to see. Sit forward for me, and then slightly slant your head down. And the same thing I did in the back, I'm going to do right here. Make sure I remove any pieces that do not belong.
And Denise, you said you're an educator for Ulta.
I am. I'm a district educator for Ulta. I've been with Ulta almost 4 years now. I was in California, doing the same thing, wonderful. I love to be able to teach stylists. I love to be able to help them. I've been doing hair 24 years, and I will tell you that what I've learned is I wish I had someone who helped me kind of go through all of the hiccups and to build my confidence when I was younger, because I didn't have that, and I had to learn, you know, sometimes the hard way, the harder, not the smarter. And if I can, you know, really guide someone to really develop their skill and become their most confident, best self. Not me. I don't want them to be me. Like, as an educator, I think it's so important that we understand that we're all different. And the way that I get to one thing may be different than the way that you get to something, but it's all valuable and it's all beautiful within our own right. We need to make sure that we are really creating that space for all of us to be able to live and breathe and, you know, do this that we call beauty because we love it so much. So now I'm going to go through and just any of the outliers. Go through, remove, creating that space. I went into where her part usually is and I over directed and then very gently went through. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slightly over direct on a part that she doesn't have but she might find that she wants later. And I'm going to create that hair, create that movement, so that when she is moving her hair side to side, or she does decide she wants a little bit of change, she's able to have that versatility and that style. Going through. Okay, sure.
And are these types of classes that you'll get at Ulta Beauty?
Oh my goodness. The range of classes that we offer. I mean, everything from curly cuts to lightening to wash and goes to things that, you know, I'm gonna say it. In beauty school, you don't learn these things. It's very rare for you to go to a beauty school where they teach you textured hair. I learned because I just was like, I need to understand everything, and I'm that kind of person that is the why. But imagine those stylists who necessarily won't be their biggest advocate or will find that they need to understand the why, and they just are trusting, I'll say it that way, they're trusting of what you're showing them and how you're impacting them. And sometimes they get left behind and become very intimidated when it comes to education or different things, different fabrics of the hair. The reality is all hair is the same, it's just how we treat it. So whether I treat silk or wool, it's all the same, it's fabric, but I'm just gonna do a different intention behind it depending on the outcome that I want. So at Ulta Beauty, we have so many classes. Again, everything from texture, color, management, wash and golds, box braiding, to balayages, haircuts, clipper cuts, all kinds of things, updos, styles, you name it. We offer it all, and we're constantly training. As educators, we have this zest for the why. We're the people that disrupt everything because we need to understand, why am I doing that? That doesn't necessarily make sense. So we make sure that we ask the hard questions so that when we come back to our team of stylists, we're able to really help them get out of their own heads sometimes, because it's sometimes just that, and become familiar with something they've never been able to do and feel confident about it. So in a short and long, yes, we offer all kinds of classes at Ulta Beauty. And all of the stylists receive it. You know, it's free education to them, the most up-to-date education, training, all of that. So as of right now, you guys will see her inspo pics. This is pretty close to where we're gonna get. We didn't take a ton off, we did refine. We have a lot more movement in the hair, a lot more lift, keeping that length, not having any gaps or holes. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna shampoo her, I'm gonna make sure that we hydrate this hair, we're gonna do a detox, I'm gonna set her product, and then I'll be back to show you a couple of afters, and I'll make sure that we put them in the links below so that you guys are able to see them in the comments. But again, have fun with this. The reality is that you need to practice, you need to get your hands in hair, you need to see what type of textures, what it does when you make it bigger or you make it smaller, how it retracts, how it recoils, all of those things. And then how you want to wear this hair, the confidence that maybe someone didn't have before. We're going to make sure that we maintain and manage the frizz, but some frizz is okay. There's something called intentional frizz. There's beauty in the expansion of hair that is curly. So we'll be back and I will show you the finished result.